In the late 1930s, the Great Depression was coming to a close, World War II was around the corner, and my grandmother was born right in the middle of it. In 1937, Dorothy J. Bledsoe was born at home in Redford, Michigan. Franklin D. Roosevelt was president, and the world was going through a lot of intense changes. During this time, cameras were also changing quite a bit. There was a wide range of image-making technology that was popular, such as folding bellow cameras, box cameras, and we even see the introduction of the 35mm camera body. In 1962, my grandma delivered my mother, Darlene Stewart, in Garden City, Michigan. Things were changing once again, but in different ways. Activism was much more prevalent, and equality was being fought for all over the U.S. Technology was also improving rapidly during this time. They even got to watch the first man on the moon. I finally came along in 2004, soon after the turn of the century. By then, digital cameras had wiped the scene and cell phones were advancing at full speed. Times were still rough, but that didn't stop anyone from capturing moments, especially with the ease of digital point-and-shoot cameras being accessible for most families, and soon to be followed by the boom of cell phones. I got the chance to get the three of us together to have a conversation about how image capture has changed over the span of our lifetimes. We got to reminisce, debate, and even find some of my grandmother's old photo albums.
In my youth, my parents gave me a Kodak camera that was the square box ones, the type that you looked down in the camera and you could see the image of the person or the thing you were taking a picture of in the front. Well, in those days also we had to use film. So the film, in the beginning they had 12 and then they went to 24 pictures on each. But you'd open the back of the camera, you'd put the film roll in where the thing was, then you'd have to pull some of the film out and hook it to the other side. Then you'd shut it and it would click in place and then you were ready to take a picture.
The first camera that I remember having when I was young was probably when I was in 3rd grade maybe. I had a little box camera that was a point and shoot, and it had these little square cubes that you put on top when you needed flash photography. And sometimes the pictures were great and sometimes they were terrible because you moved or something, but it made it very easy for young people to take photographs when they were, young.
My first camera was this little pink, children's digital camera. It had, games on it. It wasn't just, for taking pictures. It was this whole, mini electronic thing. I don't know. I remember taking it on a lot of road trips and stuff like that. Yeah, I really did love that camera.
The first picture I had taken of myself, I really don't remember it because I was only a year old. But it was a picture taken with my dad, and I don't know what camera they used in those days. I know it was a Kodak, but I don't know what model. And we used to have them developed, and this is what this looked like. This was taken in 1938. I was 1 year old with my dad.
We always had cameras around and we always took pictures or had pictures. My grandma was great at keeping things in photo albums, so her pictures went way back. Our family took pictures all the time.
Printed photos back in my youth were much better than these pictures they have nowadays on the phone. It was something you could hold in your hand, you could put it in an album, you could look at it time and time again, or you could hang it on a wall. It just was a world of difference in the way it is now. Nowadays you use your telephone to take pictures, and if your phone goes on the blink, you lose all those pictures.
Pictures and photographs were always around us all growing up. They were throughout the house, they were on the walls, they were in albums. It was probably a vital part of our remembering. Whenever we went on vacation, we would take pictures. So it was a vital part of growing up, I think.
When I became a mother, I wanted to have pictures of my children as they grew up. So there was a photographer in town that you could sign up with to get so many pictures of your children. So you could go every 6 months and get a picture from when they were a baby on up to so many, however many it was, maybe 10 times. And then I got a camera and I would take pictures of them. I could show everything that they did as they were developing. So we tried to keep getting pictures like this through the years, through their high school, through their college graduations, all through the years.
When I was in college, we often would carry cameras around to take pictures of various events. I was in theater and we were often taking pictures of all kinds, usually using 35 millimeter because that became a big thing at that time. What we would do is usually when you got prints, if it was something you were going to share with friends, you would get multiple copies of the print and then just actually hand them out to each other so that you would all have a picture of whatever event. When cameras started going from film cameras to digital cameras, at first I didn't see a big difference. I just thought it was easier to take photos. But as time passed, I realized that when you didn't get the printed version of that picture, a lot of times you would lose it. Like I've had, the phone died and I lost the pictures. I didn't know that I had to back them up on the cloud or whatever, and I lost those pictures and I don't know how to get them back. And I feel like if I had taken them on a film camera, I'd still have them. I'd have them in my hand.
I think the fact that it's kind of hard to find baby pictures, since they're kind of all over the place, is a little discouraging. Because if they were printed out, we might still have them in a photo album or something. But I know that there are a lot of them that are just kind of floating around that I might not remember now or haven't seen in a while that I would really love to. I think that the fact that this image capture technology grew so quickly made it a little harder to get a hold of those images from my childhood.
Oddly enough, I don't think getting a cell phone, being able to capture pictures on a cell phone was artificial necessarily. A lot of times you can get pictures that are in the moment and they're very captivating because they're not posed. Whereas probably in the past, always you were posing the picture. Where that's the difference with a cell phone is you can get just pictures on the fly that capture a moment in time. So that's a positive for it.
With cell phones, since it was so easy to just take a picture and you have it, you're able to put it anywhere you want, like social media, Facebook, whatever you want. I think that did kind of make getting a picture taken of you feel a little different. It's probably going to be somewhere, and it's not just for the eyes of a family or just something you're putting in a photo album. I think it made whoever was being taken a photo of a bit more conscious of how they look. I think that it also made it so that people weren't as thoughtful with what they were taking pictures of, since you didn't have to worry about how many exposures you had on a roll or something. You just have endless memory. I feel like people just kind of take pictures of everything now.
Nowadays everything is so easy to use your phone to take some digital images. But I really miss film photography, because to me you got much better pictures and you got to keep them, you got to hold them in your hand, you got to share them with your friends. You got your film processed and then they send you your negatives and your films, and you could look at the negatives, take a negative back in and get 6 copies of one picture, and then you could pass it around to your friends. So I think I prefer film photography.
I think that perhaps it is more difficult to find images from the past because of this rapid growth, except that sometimes there are good things that come for all this rapid growth in the industry. For instance, a lot of those photographs that perhaps we would have lost in time have been preserved through the new ways of capturing an image from an image. So you can document things from the past that you might not have nowadays without that industry of being able to take images of images that are from history.
Although the introduction of cell phones did make image capture much easier, it does feel like some of the magic of the image was lost. With the nix of time, process, and price also comes the loss of deeper connection to a photo. Being in the community of young photographers, I see a huge influx in film photography, the reason typically being that the fact that shooting film creates a deeper relationship between photographer and image. Even if this factor isn't as relevant for the everyday person, the advancements made in cameras have changed the way our society reacts to photos as a whole. Nonetheless, there are absolutely positives within our advancements. Without the technology we have now, a lot of our history would be lost or forgotten, but it's important to never forget where photography has come from, especially when taking photos today.